the 62nd sequel, in which Princess Water returns to Buganda from the Seychelles Islands alongside Mwanga's wives, who, however, on return, have a lot to say about what happened to their husband many, many years earlier. This journey they made back to Buganda was in 1906. Welcome. I'm the author, Christopher Amos Chikomeko. In 1906, the governor of Seychelles Island, he was now new. They had a new governor called Walter Edward Davidson. He had not been around during the Mwanga murder time, so he was very new. However, he had taken over as governor in 1904, so he had been around for the last, I think, 2 years. And he communicated to another governor in Uganda who was also new, Sir Hesketh Bell, about Mwanga's wives. And these Mwanga's wives, so far we know two, Salima and Bakazi Kubao. But now there is a clarification that there was a Seychelles woman, and this Seychelles woman was also called Salima. So all the time we have been referring to the baby mother as Salima, as if it was the Salima who came from Uganda. Mwanga went with two women, two wives, Salima and Bakazi Kubao. Now in the Seychelles, Mwanga gets another wife, a Seychelles woman, also called Salima. So that confusion, I also had it. I'm sure you are also aware that I may have been mentioning Salima as the mother, and yet a Seychelles woman, and yet also Mwanga came with a Salima. So now we are talking about three women. And all these three women, the governor of Seychelles wants them back home. There is nothing they are doing in the camp. For them, they are not prisoners. So why is the British government spending money on them? Of course, it is necessary to waste money on them, because their being in the Seychelles was to make the cover-up successful. In Buganda, these women could easily spill the beans of what happened. So in 1906, he communicated with Governor Sir Hesketh Bell, and it was time up for them to return home. And Baby Mazi was in Zanzibar. Baby Mazi was not with them. The group that had visited in 1902 took away the baby. So this baby had grown up at the Aldina Vizoram family. So the journey would take them to Zanzibar to pick up the baby as well. The reasons for taking away the baby are very difficult to know in the absence of any correspondence from Apollo Kagwa or Ham Mukasa to know exactly the interest they had in Baby Mazi. It's very difficult to understand, and I don't think we will ever understand why they took Baby Mazi away. So both the colonial governor of Zanzibar and the colonial governor in Uganda agreed that the wives should return home. So they contacted the British Consul General in Zanzibar, who was still Sir Basil Shillito Kave, and they asked him that they were sending Mwanga's wives over to him in Zanzibar, and that he should then arrange for their safe travel back to Buganda. And that one he would happily do. Salima's, the wives of Mwanga's journey was therefore very well planned, and the time for them to go came, and they had to say goodbye to everybody, including the biggest camp among the Rolashe camp, which was the camp of the Ashanti Naha Pempre of Ghana, and they did bid farewell to him. And when they did that, that boy, the eyewitness to the shooting of Mwanga, had now become a big boy. He was now a big boy, and in the course of saying goodbye, he was now 19. At the time of the death of Mwanga, I think he was 13 or 14. But now he was a grown man, 19-year-old big boy. or big man. And he had these women saying goodbye. Remember, him was even a worker within Mwanga's camp. And now it is time for these people, the employers, they're now saying goodbye. We are leaving. The exile is over. We are returning back to Buganda. The Ashanti of Ghana apparently planned for this boy to go together with the women and be able to tell the people where these women were coming from, and that is Uganda, exactly what happened, because he was the eyewitness. So this boy, remember, his name is Petit Kofi, but now he's a man, 19 years. He was to go with Mwanga's wife to Zanzibar and then also on to Buganda. But the British authorities could not accept. The Seychelles authority could not accept. So the Ashanti planned. It was a covered plan. And the only way Petit Kofi could go with these people was to go and hide in the ship. I think they call them stowaway. Was to become a stowaway and then pray to God that he survives, because stowaway, they normally hide, and but you see, the journey of this ship was only to be 2 hours, so it was not a very dangerous journey. It's not like you stowaway and you spend days and days and days on the ship. No. So 2 days was good enough. And so Petit Kofi was prepared by the Ashanti himself to go with these women and tell the Buganda people the truth of what happened to Mwanga. And so Petit Kofi pretended to be accompanying the wives, but he did not disembark from the British Indian Company steamer ship. And so the ship sailed to Zanzibar. In Zanzibar, the British Consul General officers delivered the wives of Mwanga, together with Petit Kofi, to the Aludina Visram family. Now, when they arrived in the family, they found the baby Princess Water. But the baby could not recognize her mother, Salima. Now, apparently that hurt Salima a lot. The British Consul General, Basil Kev, sought Apollo Kagwa's opinion on the journey, and they agreed on what to do. Meanwhile, the police inspector of the Seychelles Islands reported to Zanzibar that the Ashanti dependent Petit Kofi had been reported missing. So Ashanti reported to the police after the ship had left that Petit Kofi was missing. So the British Consul Basil Cavey in Zanzibar realized that the description that the Zanzibari police were giving of the stowaway fitted exactly the man with the Mwanga's wives. So Basil Cavey was shocked when he learned that Petit Kofi actually was not an official party of the wives. She was not officially accompanying the wives, but he had been a stowaway, which is a criminal act. However, he decided to help the boy. And for example, they agreed that they will report that he wanted to return to Ghana. That he was tired of exile and that he wanted to report to Ghana. Deep down, Basil Cavey knew that the act of reporting to the police will get Petit Kofi arrested and returned to the Seychelles. But Petit Kofi did not know. So Basil Cavey and Aludina Visram convinced Petit Kofi to go to the police and report that he was an escapee from the Seychelles and that he wanted to return to Ghana, whereas in fact the instructions of the Ashanti was that he come to Buganda and spill the beans. So poor boy went to the police. He reported what happened. He confessed that he was a stowaway, but he was a Ghanaian, and he asked that he be allowed to return to Ghana. Now, instead, the police said, no, we cannot return you to Ghana. You belong to the Seychelles. And therefore, they put him on the next ship, and poor boy, Petit Kofi, was returned to the Seychelles. Yeah, so Mwanga's wives were not to go to Buganda with Petit Kofi. Petit Kofi was returned to the Seychelles Islands, while the wives proceeded to Buganda. Now, unfortunately, the escape of Petit Kofi as a stowaway and him being arrested in Zanzibar did not escape London and the Colonial Office. And when I was going through the documents at the Uganda National Archives, I was able to find a communication where London was asking Seychelles, how dare they get an escapee when Seychelles was supposed to be very safe, being an island so far away. Now, I found a copy at the National Archives of Uganda, and this copy was dated the 20th of October 1906. It's an explanation where the governor of the Seychelles, Governor Walter Edward Davidson, is explaining the circumstances under which Petit Kofi had escaped. And when I was reading through, this particular area interested me because it's the biggest evidence we have about this boy, Petit Kofi. Yes, I found him in the documents in UK. Now he's also in the documents in our own archives, although the stories are different. The other one as a witness to the shooting, but now this one, he is escaping. Ashanti is sending him to Uganda, and they have found out. And now, for the first time, we get the name recorded, and here is what the document says. The governor of the Seychelles is explaining to the British Colonial Office that political prisoners are under constant police supervision and are detained in an area set aside as camps for them and their families and dependents. However, there is no warrant of detention issued for their children, their servants, and their dependents, including the 19-year-old Petit Kofi of Ghana, the subject of the escaping as a stowaway on the British Indian Company steamer ship, together with the women who are wives of Kabaka Mwanga. So the governor reported in this particular communication that Petit Kofi reported himself to the authorities in Zanzibar, meaning the police, and that he had wanted help to return to Ghana and not to Uganda, which is true. But this was a setup done in Zanzibar by Aldina Visram and the British Council General. And that therefore, it was the Zanzibari authorities who had therefore returned the boy to the Seychelles after consultations. Now, whether that is really an explanation or a brief, it's difficult to say. In the communication, they are saying it's an explanation, but to me, it's like a brief. They are stating exactly what happened. So, Basil Cave option had worked wonders. Petit Kofi was back in the Seychelles, so nothing was ever spilled by him. And Princess Walter finally arrives in Buganda with the 3 wives of Mwanga in 1906, alongside a representative from the Aldina Visram family. The baby was taken to Bagalayaze at Impererwe, and apparently Bagalayaze was delighted to see a light-skinned baby who had the fallen Kabaka Mwanga's eyes. They resembled Mwanga completely. She ordered for the name Water to cease and be translated as Mazi. Also, Bagalayaze asked the Reverend Father Bresson of, I think, Mill Hill Missionaries to baptize the baby. I'm not sure whether it was Mill Hill Missionaries or White Fathers of Rubaga. I'm not sure there. and they baptized the baby under the Roman Catholic Church, and she was named Maria Luwede Mazzi. Her mother, Salima, was asked to stay and raise her baby by the Katikiro Apollo Kagwa. Now listen to this very carefully. At the same time, Apollo Kagwa ordered Mwano Mubakazi Kubawo to own up the baby as if she was the biological mother to the rest of Buganda, not to Bagalayazi. So the story was that Apollo Kagwa asked this black woman, Bakazi Kubao, the wife, to be the biological mother. So she would go all around saying that the new baby, the half-caste baby, was her own daughter. And Salima, the other wife, was also a black woman, but she was not asked. It was Bakazi Kubao who was asked. As a matter of fact, the full name is Doisi Mwanomu Bakazi Kubao. That is the full name of this woman who was asked, Mwanga's wife, who was asked to own up to be the biological mother of Princess Water, which was not true because the biological mother had also come along and was now being asked by Apollo Kagwa to stay within the Imperial Palace enclosure and raise the baby, and raise Mwanga's baby. Now, it is very interesting that Apollo Kagwa also asked Bakazi Kubao to answer whoever is asking, including Bagalayaze, whoever asks, how did Mwanga die? That her answer should be that Mwanga died because of an illness, which illness had caused his legs to become swollen. And once they began to swell, that affected the whole body of Mwanga and he died. That was the official story. As a matter of fact, because Apollo Kagwa wanted that to become the official reason or the official cause of death, when Apollo Kagwa was writing his book, the book on the kings of Buganda, one of the editions of 1904, he had stated that what he had stated in that book, that the widow of Mwanga, Doisi Mwanomu Bakazi Kubao, had told him that Mwanga had died of swollen legs that affected the whole body. And the Katikiro recorded that in his book, the revised Basekabakaba Buganda book, the revised edition of 1904. So in that way, Apollo Kagwa records the cause of death. Bagalayaze is told to tow that line. And if you notice, it is different from what was recorded in the civil registry, because the civil registry has an artery that burst. Where did the artery burst? Those details are not given. An artery burst and he died immediately. But now Bakazi Kubao's story, which is not her story, Apollo Kagwa is the one putting the story, and that she must tow the line. So she goes on saying she's the mother of Princess Mazzi, yet Princess Mazzi is a complete half-caste. How could Mwanga and a black woman give birth to a complete half-caste? That one was defeating everybody. But here was Doisi Bakazi Kubao Mwanomu going everywhere saying she was the mother, she was the mother, she was the mother. So I don't know how some people act and behave and reason, but that's the way things were. As a matter of fact, this half-caste princess of Mwanga grew up into a very big, respectable woman. But again, outside, Apollo Kagwa used to say that don't call her Maria, he should be Princess Mary. So she was Mary Ruwe Demazi in the government circles. And she lived a very long life. As a matter of fact, she died the other day in 1989. Now, what about her mother? Her mother also stayed, but we shall see when we reach future sequels. A time came when she had to lead some people back to the Seychelles, because she was more of a Seychelles, so she knew where to take people. But that we shall see in the future sequels. We shall also see in future sequels that this Ashanti of Ghana was finally released many years in 1924. Actually, it was Kabalega who was released first in 1923. Then in 1924, Ashanti was also released. But unfortunately, the Queen Mother, Nanaya, had already died. And therefore, finally, Petit Kofi also got released in 1924 and finally returned to Ghana. We will never know whether Petit Kofi wrote his memoirs, and if he did, what did he say about what happened to Mwanga? Maybe that would be an interesting story for future researchers. Mine, this is enough. We have eyewitnesses, and they are enough for us. Back in Buganda, the wives of Mwanga are back in Buganda, 1906. The very same year where now the truth comes out, because we know that Salima, the other wife of Mwanga, spills the beans, because remember, we've seen in this sequence that she saw a body soon after the shooting of Mwanga. She saw a dead body on a stretcher being carried away by the police. That is her eyewitness account. And then, of course, Petit Kofi comes and fills in the details that, yes, Mwanga has been shot. Now, these facts were told to Bagalayaze. So Bagalayaze knew exactly what happened to Mwanga by 1906. And then what happens? He also does not stomach it. He says the same to different people. How Mwanga was finished, how Mwanga was killed, how Apollo Kagwa was on the island on that day, and therefore that rumor that Apollo Kagwa was responsible for the murder of Mwanga, the rumor that has existed for so many years, began with Bagalayaze, began at the Bagalayaze Palace. And that very year, 1906, became a very dangerous year for Sir Apollo Kagwa. He suffered a lot of problems, including his own clan protesting against him, that he was no longer one of the Nsenene people. The Lukiko itself at one time voted a vote of no confidence in Apollo Kagwa. And now you can see where all this was coming from. Now, of course, the reason he was given a vote of no confidence had nothing to do with this story. It had something to do with the ancestral grounds of the Nsenene clan, the wrangle that was going on, and I think Apollo Kagwa, trying to show a lot of power, retaliated by doing some terrible things against his own clan. I think he exhumed the remains of his ancestors from a certain graveyard. And then the Lukiko voted a vote of no confidence in him, although he survived. The British could not allow anything to happen to him. And that was the same year, 1906. But I want to show you that the anger in the Great Lukiko was not so much about what was happening in the Nsenene clan. It was about the rumor from Bagalayaze's palace that Apollo Kagwa was behind the killing of Mwanga II on the Seychelles Island, and that the story was arising from the wives. And of course, Apollo Kagwa was very angry with the wives for doing exactly what he had told them not to do, to tell them the truth, that he has ever been to the Seychelles, that Mwanga was actually killed. All this he didn't want them to spill, but they did. And of course, we have a problem already. The civil registry is saying another cause of death. Apollo Kagwa is deciding to put another story, and now there is a complete conflict of interest in when it comes to who is saying the truth. But for now, let us leave it at this and go into the rest of the history of our church and what was happening on the ground. May the good Lord bless us all.